Hello and welcome to today. This is a bit of a different one. Um, just as a public disclaimer, this is not going to be a Leeds United related podcast. So if that's what you're here for, that's fine. You don't have to stay and watch, as there's going to be some difficult topics going to be discussed involving my own personal health issues. And if that's not your cup of tea, that's absolutely fine. It's a very personal journey that I'm going to share, and I fully appreciate if you just want to hear about the football and the good things, well, as far as Leeds United can be good, about the world. So yeah, okay. Anxious about this one, so please bear with me. I am just going to put up, it is a massive trigger warning. It's going to be heavily on the mental health side and physical health as well, as if anybody doesn't know or does know, I'm a type 1 diabetic, and it's going to be my kind of journey through diabetes and coping with health related and mental health related issues because of it and in spite of it. So if this isn't for you, if you're struggling with your own and you don't think that you can hear somebody else's journey today, not a problem. Please don't put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Don't push yourself further than you want to. You can come back and join when it's a Leeds related topic or something that's just maybe slightly more upbeat. It's not all going to be doom and gloom, but there is going to be some scary moments. Death will be talked about as well in this. So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that there's going to be some hard, uncomfortable topics going to be covered today. And I know I always try and say that I'm trying not to ramble. This is going to be a video where I ramble because it's quite difficult putting yourself and your own personal issues out for everybody to judge. Okay, so we'll move on and go on to my story. Give you a bit of a history on my journey through diabetes. I have had diabetes, type 1 diabetes, now for just over 10 years. I was 22 years old when I got diagnosed, and it's a common myth that type 1 diabetes is something that you only get. It's, often used to be called juvenile diabetes because most people would get diagnosed in childhood. Actually now, more than 50% of people being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes are above the age of 18. My maternal grandma had type 1 diabetes and she didn't get diagnosed until after she was 30. So it's not as rare as you think. My journey into diabetes was actually quite an amusing one. I have quite a dark sense of humour. I like to see the positives in the negatives. I try and live in the light side of things and deal with life with a laugh and a giggle and try and make the best out of every situation. That's not always possible, but it's my aim, my goal. I'd gone out. I was 22 years old. I had gone out on a Saturday night, and I've been quite lucky. Without meaning to rub it in anybody's faces, I very rarely get hangovers. I think it's the Irish in me that knows how to deal with alcohol. I'd gone out on a Saturday night, and I think I've only ever had half a dozen hangovers in my entire life. But I woke up Sunday morning feeling hungover or feeling worse for wear, and I just put it down as an unexpected hangover. However, on the Monday, I was also feeling poorly, and I went to work and I felt like hideous. So I went home after work. Obviously, I stuck it out because, I'm made of tough stuff in Yorkshire. And I woke up on the Tuesday morning and I knew something wasn't right. It wasn't like me to not only have a hangover, but have a hangover that's, into its third day. So I got an emergency appointment at the doctor's, did some blood tests. I had stomach cramps as well. And she did a test on my blood sugars. She asked me how long ago I'd eaten. I said quite a few hours, 2 or 3 hours ago. And she said, well, your blood sugars are high, so I think we need to rush you through to hospital. Understandably, I was quite emotional and overwhelmed. I wasn't allowed to drive home. So I wasn't allowed to drive myself to hospital. So I had to get my dad to take me to hospital. And there for most of the day, they'd ran some more tests and they said, right, well, we need to start you on insulin. They showed me how to use the needles. They showed me how to test my blood sugars. They told me I was going to be on insulin for the rest of my life. But the irony is, and I think this is almost a bit of where the trauma is the right word, nobody actually said the words, you're diabetic, to me. So they just said, you're going to have to give yourself insulin. They didn't say, Evie, you're a diabetic now. This is your life. No one gave me a proper explanation on how my insulin worked, how I was just kind of given insulin, given needles, and just kind of said, go back into the world and live your life. And that was it. Obviously incredibly overwhelming. My blood sugar levels were like that for quite a while. I used to have to, because the idea of injecting myself felt so foreign, I used to have to bite down on a towel and inject myself. They showed me where I should, the outer arms, legs, stomach, hips, bum. Those are the areas that you're supposed to go between and not. You're not supposed to consistently use a particular site because you can get like fatty deposits and hardening underneath your skin. So I used to have to bite down on a towel and take it. And I then started to not be very good at remembering to take my insulin. Now, having grown up with a grandma who was a type 1 diabetic, I knew how important it was. The logical part of my brain knew how important it was to take your insulin. But because nobody had ever explained anything to me, and because I felt overwhelmed and stupid for not understanding what I should be doing, for not understanding what I was supposed to be doing. And at this point as well, my daughter was 18 months old when I first got diagnosed. So I had a toddler, and I didn't have time, or in my own head, I didn't have time to figure out how to do it, to figure out, because I have to put my daughter's needs, because that's what you do as a parent, you put your children's needs above your own. And I would remember to take it, and then I would take too much, and then I would take too little. And it was just being a diabetic, as I've learned over the last 10 years, and it's the way that I always describe it to people. This might be quite a like British childhood thing, but does everybody remember the children's entertainers that you'd get at parties where they'd have the sticks with the plates and they used to like spin them, and then you'd keep them spinning, and then they'd be able to like juggle and make the plates go from one stick to another, and they used to get you to join in. And get you to kind of spin it yourself. They'd try and get you to be able to do it yourself, and then sometimes they'd get it spinning for you and then place it on top of the stick for you. It's like having those in both hands, and that's the diabetes. And then you're expected to live your life like you're not holding on to them. To live your life holding these spinning plates. And if these spinning plates go wrong, so many other health complications can arise from it, which we'll get onto. And it was very overwhelming. I was working, had a toddler, living on my own, massive health complication now. My grandma, who'd had diabetes, had died 11 months before I got diagnosed, so I didn't have that person who I felt close to, who I could go and ask for advice. I felt on my own. I didn't feel supported. I didn't feel like I'd been given any sort of actual simplistic step-by-step instructions. It was just, there's a load of needles, there's your blood test, glucose monitor, go. And that was it. And I was expected to be able to ration and be able to give myself this potentially deathly drug, because if you overdose on insulin, it can be fatal. And I had no instructions, I had no support, and then I'd got myself in a mess where I felt so overwhelmed that, as a coping mechanism, I just froze. I was paralyzed by panic, and I also had this deep-seated kind of fear, having grown up not being one of the pretty girls, not being chosen first for things, always having beautiful friends on the inside as well as the outside who were prettier and slimmer than me and just all round more conventionally beautiful. And I accidentally stumbled upon the fact that I'd lost weight and I hadn't been taking my insulin to the correct dosages. And it happened more or less accidentally, where I ran out of insulin and then I felt ashamed that I'd run out of insulin, and I got into my own head that I was going to get in trouble for not keeping up with my insulin. So I then allowed myself to continue not to take it, and I lost more and more and more weight. I was receiving more compliments. Not only was I back down to my pre-pregnancy weight, I was lighter than I had ever been in my entire life. At my lowest, for reference, I'm 5'2.5". Now, half is very important. I went down to just under 7 stone, but I still didn't feel like one of the pretty girls. I still didn't feel like I was worthy to be chosen first. Because I'd lost weight rapidly, and I wasn't doing it a healthy way. I wasn't doing it in a going to the gym or, walking in terms of being able to kind of tone as you lose weight. I had loose skin, so I felt the irony in close. I felt like I looked better than I ever had done because I was skinnier than I ever had been. and my cheekbones stuck out more, and my fingers were more dainty, and my arms were skinnier, and when I wore like a waist belt around a dress, it was on the tightest loop that it could be on, and I'd never had that before. And there was the flip side of that happens when you are continuously have a high blood sugar, which is that your vision starts to become blurry. So I was needing to wear my glasses more and more and more. I was feeling so lethargic. I had no energy. And by this point, I had a 3-year-old daughter. This was 2016. So I had a 3-year-old daughter, and I had no energy. I would then have this constant thirst, and as soon as I would finish a glass of water, I'd need another one. I'm a massive sparkling water fan, and I used to get them in massive 2-litre bottles. Now, I could get through 3-4 of those bottles a day. So I was drinking 6 to 8 litres of water every day. And for reference, you're usually supposed to drink about 8 glasses of water a day. So I was drinking triple, quadruple the amount of water that you were supposed to be drinking. But I could never quench that thirst because my blood sugar levels were so high. And another thing is that your breath smells like alcoholic, sweet, like pear drops, which is why often if you were to see a diabetic, they would appear and they were having either a hypo, which is where your blood sugar levels are dangerously low, or a hyper, which is where they're ridiculously high. There's that sweet alcohol smelling thing. So people who had diabetic episodes out in public have often been disregarded as just being drunk. Now, because I had not been consistently taking, and by this point, I wasn't taking any insulin, you can I was going into I didn't know the name of it at the time, but I've now since done my research and realised that I was suffering with a mental health illness, an eating disorder that can only affect people with type 1 diabetes, and it's called diabulimia. Now, the government in 2024, earlier on this year, has agreed that it needs to be a officially recognised eating disorder, and that more research needs to be done into it, and that there isn't enough. Even though the UK is leading the way in research with type 1 diabetes and eating disorders, they still know nothing. It's a small amount of knowledge that's known, and therefore the information that's available for people like myself, especially when you're still very young and impressionable and you get diagnosed with it, the social aspect of it and the physical demands of it, and how it makes you look and how it makes you feel and how it makes you feel different to other people, spinning plates. So I was going through diabulimia, and it got so bad that now my hair looks fairly long on stream right now, but my hair was about that much longer than it is now. My hair was down to my waist, and because my blood sugar levels were so high for such a long time, 18 months plus, my hair actually anybody with long hair will understand the ball on the wall when you're in the shower, of the fact that you can just come through your hair and, you know, pull out loads of strands, and that's completely normal. But my hair was just breaking, so it wasn't coming out in full strands, which is a normal, healthy, you know, a few strands. I'm not talking about clumps, but just a few strands of hair every day kind of thing. My hair was just breaking off. So my hair went from being waist length to being about here, something like that. And I hadn't had a haircut. It was just so destroyed. My hair had killed itself, kind of thing, because I wasn't taking care of myself, because I had this desperate desire to be pretty and feel worthy. So this continued for a long time, and I started not only obviously with that amount of drinking of water, the obvious outcome of that is needing to go to the toilet. Now, what happens when your body is starting to feel the consequences of diabulimia is that you go into what's called diabetic ketoacidosis, which is where your body has such little insulin that it can no longer convert any carbohydrate into energy. And it then starts to burn the fat and turn that into energy. And then that gets released into the body, and then it turns acidic, hence the acidosis. And because of that, that's what was causing the weight loss, because basically any carbohydrate that I would eat would just go straight through, because it wasn't useful to me, because I couldn't do anything with it. So I could eat as much pasta and bread and rice and potatoes, and being of an Irish persuasion, the potatoes were very important to me. And I didn't put on weight because my body didn't do anything with it. It got rid of it. As soon as it went in, it came out. And that sounds like a dream, but actually it was killing me. And I not only was I so lethargic, my vision was blurry, I would have really bad stomach cramps, needed to wee a lot, the sweet smelling breath. I would also get pins and needles in my lower legs and specifically my feet. And in order to sleep, because the pins and needles would be that vicious, I would have to wrap wet towels or damp towels around my feet to make me lose the sensation in my feet. And that's what I was having to do most nights in order to sleep. Obviously, because of the amount of water I was drinking, I was also getting up several times a night to go to the toilet. So even though I was exhausted, then struggling to sleep, was struggling to have the energy to play with my daughter, look after her, the desire to be pretty. That was more important. And that felt like it was a sacrifice worth making. So late summer 2016, I was leaving a job and starting a new job. And I took the plunge, went back to the doctors, got my insulin. I still wasn't very good at taking it, but I'd made the first steps towards doing something about it, because we'd gone on holiday in the summer to Mallorca, and I hadn't really noticed until that point how brittle my hair had gotten. And my hair, as you can see now, is very like thick and curly naturally, and it was borderline straight and short. So I thought, right, well, I'll see if this will do anything. I then came back and was starting my new job. I felt sick and nauseous, and I was being sick, and I had no food in me because I felt so nauseous that I couldn't eat. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know whether I had a bug, whether it was just new job nerves or something. I lasted the first day of the job, and then drove home. I rang one of my best friends and we were talking, and I said I didn't feel very well, and my breathing was really rapid and consistently rapid. It was like I couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't go. I could get halfway and then I'd have to start taking another breath in. My heart rate was so rapid. I just felt so weak. I wasn't making a lot of sense, but I didn't know that at the time. Because again, another thing, when you are hypo and extremely hyper, the connections between your brain and your mouth don't often work properly. So for instance, when I'm having a low, which is anything under kind of 4 millimoles, you get cold sweats, you get angry by just slight, really irritable. And I sometimes struggle when I'm extremely low I can think of the words, but I can't get the connection from my brain to my mouth to work. And that's sometimes incredibly frustrating, and then makes you even angrier, and not angry at anybody, but angry at yourself for feeling like a failure because you can't talk. But during this drive home, I got home. I said to my friend, I'll speak to you later. I'm just going to go and try and have a rest. And I passed out at the bottom of the stairs. So I would walk in and my stairs were right next to my front door. And I passed out on the floor. And then I kind of woke up a few minutes later and then crawled up the stairs. I kept on passing out, going up. I fell down the stairs. I went back up, went to the bathroom, vomited, passed out on the bathroom floor, went back to bed. I rang my best friend back again, and he was getting really concerned. He was getting angry with me. I was getting angry with him because I didn't find out obviously until later, but I wasn't making any sense. Like I said, that it wasn't working, but in my head I was saying proper words. I was having a proper conversation, but the words weren't coming out. They were coming out in noises, not even the wrong words. It was just noises and grunts. But he came. I told him the only words that I could actually get out clearly were F off. A particular highlight of mine. He came, obviously saw the state that I was in. I had nothing in me. I was vomiting blood by this point because I had nothing left in me. He called an ambulance, got rushed to the hospital, blue lighted through to the hospital. I don't remember a great deal of it. I remember being in A&E was it resus bit? I can't remember exactly. I remember there was a student, I think it was a student nurse, and he was trying to take blood, but I've got quite deep set veins, and he was trying to take blood, and basically I'm just really awkward and wasn't giving him any blood. So he tried to obviously take blood from multiple areas. I might try and insert some pictures in and around here of kind of the aftermath of the bruises that they left. No hate towards him, I'm just a very difficult patient. So that was obviously scary for him, and I was out of it. I was not aware of a lot of what was going on, but I was on insulin, and my heart was erratic, and part of the late stages of diabetic ketoacidosis is the rapid breathing, drowsiness, loss of consciousness, confusion, and I was in early stages of kidney failure, and because of my heart rate, I was on the high end of a risky end of a cardiac arrest as well. A few days later, when I was more lucid, and they, hooked me up to have all sorts of, insulin, nutrients. They had to rehydrate me because I'd lost obviously a lot of fluid. And they told me that had my best friend not come and not called the ambulance, that I'd have gone into a diabetic coma. And because at the time I lived alone and I didn't have my daughter that night or for the next 2 days, they told me that I would have died. So my quest to be pretty led me to being hours away from death. It led me to being hospitalized for a week. It led me to almost leaving. Oh, communication together. It led me to almost leaving my daughter without a mum. It led me to almost not being able to watch her grow up. It led me to not being able to be alive to meet my husband. Not being able to get the pleasure of having 2 bonus children that I've had via marriage. My obsession with being seen as being worthy almost led to my own death. I'm sorry. I'm planning on doing another diabetic video because I don't think I can do it all in one, otherwise we'll be here all day. It's already been over half an hour. Just as an FYI, I have my struggles, but I'm a lot better. My diabetes is under control. I'm very much here and alive. I have struggles still, but I'm not going to allow that to happen again. I just wanted to put this out there in case anybody else was struggling with something similar, to know that you're not alone. Please go seek help, and to share my story. I'm not doing this for sympathy. I don't need anybody's validation. I'm okay now. I'm okay. I know my own worth. But I just wanted to share that there's a lot of things that people don't see. A lot of struggles that people have, both mentally and physically, that people don't see. And to be kind, because you don't see it, you don't know what's going through somebody else's head. You don't know what they're going through. And if you can do anything ever in this world, be kind, because kindness isn't a weakness. In my eyes, kindness is simply the quietest form of strength. So, if you wish to discuss anything, please be sensitive in the comments. Please respect one another. If anybody feels like opening up, please be kind and respectful and polite. Don't be rude. I know that you won't be. Everybody's so far been wonderful in the comment section here. But this is a very bizarre one for me. I've never sat down and just kind of told that story to somebody who didn't already know me. So it's kind of a bit like therapy. But yeah, if anybody wants to leave a comment and experience anything, please do. I don't quite know how to end this one. It's a bit of a weird one. Yeah, please give it a like if it's helped you. If you want, you don't have to do whatever you please. Just be nice. Okay. See you all later. Bye.